I'm Margaret with Civic Nebraska's Voting Rights Team, and today on the Long March Forward for Voting Rights, we are focusing on the contributions of Sojourner Truth in her struggle to secure voting rights for both Black people and women. Sojourner Truth was born under slavery and named Isabella Baumfree in 1797 in Swartzville, New York. She was one of 10 children of James and Elizabeth. Around age 9, she was separated from her family and sold at a slave auction to John Neely for $100. Neely was cruel, violent, and beat her regularly. By the age of 13, Truth had endured brutality by 4 different slave owners. Truth escaped with her infant daughter to freedom in 1826. At that point, she changed her name as she felt it was her calling to speak the truth. She said, "My name was Isabella, but when I left the house of bondage, I left everything behind. I wasn't going to keep nothing of Egypt on me, and so I went to the Lord and asked him to give me a new name. And the Lord gave me Sojourner, because I was to travel up and down the land, showing the people their sins, and being a sign unto them. Afterwards, I told the Lord I wanted another name, because everybody else had 2 names. And the Lord gave me Truth, because I was to declare the truth to the people." 2 years later, she went to court to recover her son and became the first Black woman to win such a case against a white man. Truth rose to prominence in the abolitionist movement, but distinguished herself for her steadfast conviction that women's voting rights should not take a back seat to men's. She said, "I feel that I have the right to have just as much as a man. There's a great stir about colored men getting their rights, but not a word about the colored women. And if colored men get their rights and colored women not theirs, the colored men will be masters over the women, and it will be just as bad as it was before." In 1872, Truth attempted to vote in the presidential election. She cited the 15th Amendment, stating, "The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude." Her request was denied. Truth continued to advocate for voting rights until her death in 1883. Joining me today is Candid Villard from Greater Omaha's League of Women Voters. Thanks for joining me today, Candid.
Of course.
Can you tell us, what does voting mean to you?
Definitely. Voting means to me the active participation in making the world a better place. By voting, we are practicing not only what it means to be a citizen, but also what it means to be stewards of justice and peace. We have to cherish the rights that were fought for us by leaders such as Sojourner, who inspire us to keep fighting for voter rights still today. In my life experience, the fights of the civil rights movement and that of the women's suffrage movement have had the most influential impacts on who I am today and why I fight for maintaining all human rights. These 2 big causes are still tremendously being fought for today, and in order to honor all of the pioneers that we know have put in the hard work and dedication into making those movements what they are today, we have to continue with that passion and fire for seeing equality, equity, and justice out. Outside of that, I think that voting is important because not only am I a Black person, but I'm a Black woman whose voice needs to be heard more from and heard clearly, especially in today's climate. While we and many other marginalized groups may not always have the opportunity to do so, voting is a form of speaking up that must remain undeniable to all eligible citizens. In order to proceed in making revolutionary changes, we must sit at the tables in which making of rules and important decisions are being made. In order to proceed in making revolutionary changes, we must sit at the tables in which making of rules and important decisions are being made. So by voting, we get to have a say in who should hold power at local and national levels. By voting, you use your right to be heard and to speak up for what is right. If we want our current fights and causes to be worth it, we must take action to elect officials we believe will see our missions and values through. Voting is important because I want to be on the right side of history.
Thanks for joining me today, Candid, to share your thoughts on voting.
Thank you for having me.
If you are interested in helping protect voting rights, consider becoming a volunteer with the League of Women Voters and Civic Nebraska. Both organizations help register voters, educate, and advocate for the voting public. To become a voting rights advocate, use the QR code or visit civicnebraska.org. You can find the League of Women Voters nearest you at lwv.org. You too can join the Long March Forward for Voting Rights.